Hi, my name is Jeff Borden. I have been asked to speak with you just for a little bit about what it takes to create a great conference proposal. I've had a number of the proposals that I have presented to various conferences be accepted, especially in the last 6 or 7 years. The number of proposals I've had accepted has really gone up. And I've been presenting internationally, and in fact, those presentations have led to my being asked to perform a lot of keynote addresses, as well as doing conference sessions and workshops. And so today, I just want to walk you through what it looks like to actually assemble a great presentation. I'm going to be using the Best in Track presentation that I assembled for the Sloan C Consortium, and they marked it and identified it as a Best in Track session. And so this is how I put that together. Now, if you haven't already seen the Prezi, I would encourage you to do so. The Prezi talks about a lot of different aspects within the realm of creating a good proposal, and at least the 4 things that I think are relevant. It talks about knowing who your audience is, and essentially you have 2 audiences when you are preparing a proposal, and so I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I want to talk just quickly about how to effectively write that proposal, what that looks like, again, how that applies to the audience that you're actually speaking to. Then I want to talk a little bit about creating a catchy title, something that will get you in the door, if you will, with the people who are actually reading your abstracts and things, or at least getting them to read the abstract once it's been put inside of the program. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about follow-through and what that looks like from a conference perspective, as well as from the participants' perspective. So let me show you an example of one of the proposals that I have submitted and had accepted to the Sloan C Consortium. As is noted in the Prezi, there are really 2 audiences that you're working toward in any proposal that you submit to a conference. The first is the proposal review committee, or those that are checking out to see if this is something interesting to them. And then, of course, there are the participants who you hope to come to your session. In this case, I created a presentation called ARG, or ARG, Creating Alternate Reality Games for the Classroom. And it's based on actually something that I did at a couple of different universities, working a situated or simulated environment into my teaching. And so I really wanted to show participants how they could do that for themselves. So my 2 audiences are the review committee, and then again, the participants would be faculty likely, or perhaps a chair, or maybe even a dean, but mostly practitioners is who I was interested in. So to that end, as I start thinking about what those audiences want, I know, as someone who has sat on review committees for conferences, we have a conference with Pearson that I work with every year, and we have 400, 500, 600 people that attend that, and a lot of different sessions. And I know when I get 40, 50, 400, 500 different abstracts, that going through them is not easy. So for the audience that I have in the review committee, I want them to know that this is going to be interactive, it is going to be engaging, and it's also going to be different. There are likely 10, 20, 30 different proposals they're going to get around gamification, games. It's an initiative that's been around for a while now. People have been talking about gamifying their content. And so as I go through and I give them something to think about, I want to make sure that they understand that we're actually going to play a game in this environment, that during the session the participants and myself will engage in an actual game. They will actually see the modeling of various kinds of learning complete with outcomes and objectives, so it really does show that there's going to be some interaction and some engagement. I also let it be known that there is some theory that is being tied back to what's going on. It talks about the Serious Games Initiative and some different things so that they know that this is not just my own thoughts and sort of a survey of one, if you will, that I actually have done some research to make sure that this is based on some best practices. Then, as far as the participants are concerned, once the abstract is accepted by the review committee, I want them to know that they are going to have the necessary tools to create their own ARG. By the time that we're done, they will actually have begun crafting their own ARG for use with their students. And that's really what I want them to see as they walk into my session, to feel like I'm going to get something out of this that is meaningful. Now, at the same time, I have to be aware of the formatting, so I'm going to step 2, really, talking about the writing. And in this case, not only do you have to have good grammar, spelling, syntax, all of those things that you would expect of your students, you also want to ensure that you're really following the format rules of the conference that you're applying to. And so in this case, they asked a lot of questions about the audience, the context really, what that's going to look like, how long it's going to be, those sorts of pieces of information. And then there were actually a couple of abstracts. There's a short abstract that allowed me to put in keywords, key phrases, and different things that were essentially bullet points that people could look at very quickly and determine that's something that I would like to participate in. And then there's the extended abstract that gives a little bit more information. Now, the extended abstract is where you really get to try to hook people with some really quality ideas. And this will come back in our follow-through section because we want to make sure that we actually give those ideas in the presentation. Unfortunately, a lot of conference goers have heard, or read anyway, conference sessions and conference session titles, abstracts that say they're going to present about one thing, and in reality, they present about another. After we look at the writing and the formatting and those sorts of elements that the conference wants, then we can look at a title. Now, my suggestions for a title are that they can be surely clever. There's some very clever titles out there that have really captured my attention over the years. But you want it to be something that at just a quick glance gives your participants at least some understanding of what it is that they're going to do in this environment. And so in this setting, I talk about the ARG, creating an alternate reality game for the classroom. That's a pretty obvious statement as to what's going to happen. However, I think to some it's a bit provocative because they don't know what an alternate reality game is, perhaps. Some people are interested in the gaming idea, but maybe they just are thinking they'll dabble a little bit or stick their big toe in the end of the pool rather than jumping in. And so this gives them an opportunity to see that, or at least see a story of someone else's experience with that, and to begin trying to apply some of those things themselves. You can really get clever and creative with these titles. The problem, again, is when the title has nothing to do with what it is you're talking about, or it's so ambiguous that people don't know if they should attend. And so then you have to hope that the title's catchy enough to get them to read the abstract, which in some cases it is, and in other cases it's not. So just be careful. This is what I always say to my students, my public speaking students, about using humor. If you're funny, then you know it. If you have to ask, am I funny? Don't be funny. Just use a creative title, not necessarily a clever or funny title. And then finally, there's the follow-through aspect. That's where whatever you have put into the abstract, you need to make sure that you actually perform. A lot of conference review committees look at the comments that they've been given from previous conferences. And if you don't get good ratings, don't get good marks, then they often will not bring you back for a second, third, fourth, however many times you'd like to go to that particular conference. They will not let you present again. However, when you are effective, and if you start to get a track record of being a person who delivers quality material, then often those conferences are highly interested in you presenting again. In fact, I've actually had a couple of conferences write to me specifically asking if I was coming because they wanted to see a new session that year. So these are the kinds of things that we can begin to do as we develop information for the conferences. The other thing I would mention, by the way, in your bio, as you give your bio, make sure that you say in there how often you do present, what kind of presenter you are. Let people know, for example, I am not just a person who works in one place, I'm a person who works in multiple places, and I'm a speaker, a professor, a comedian, a trainer. These are all things that I do that help them make a better decision, or at least a more informed decision, about whether or not I should be presenting at their conference. I hope this was helpful. Again, take a look at the Prezi. The Prezi does not have narration. You can go through it at your leisure. I hope that this works for you, and that I wish you all the best success in creating your own conference proposals. Thanks. Good luck and good teaching.